Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Punters Lounge Cheltenham Day 4 Tips podcast. I'm your host, Darran Pearce, and I'm joined again by the Punters Lounge horse racing tipster, Steve Simmons, aka the Brigadier. This is the final episode of a four-part series previewing the races taking place at this year's Cheltenham Festival. Here we look at the 7 races taking place on Day 4, Friday the 15th of March, where the feature race is the highly anticipated Cheltenham Gold Cup. Before we get started, if you want to stay up to date during the festival of in-depth race cards, expert tips, and the latest odds and results, then head on over to punterslounge.com. Now let's get stuck in straight away by taking a look at the runners and riders for the prestigious Cheltenham Gold Cup. And of course, the horse that we start with, Steve, was last year's winner, Galopin Des Champs, currently even money at the time of recording with Bet365. And I don't know what you think, but I certainly think that even money is more than fair enough, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely, Darran. I mean, it may even drift out a little bit come today with the bookmakers wanting to try and get the horse in the book. He's done nothing wrong, has he? I mean, he was so impressive last time at Leopardstown, beating Fast or Slow. And I know Fast or Slow's got a couple of victories over him, but that was the real Galopin Des Champs last time. And thinking back to last year, I remember I backed Brave Man's Game last year and come to the last, thought I had a chance. Both jumped fairly over the last, and this horse just sprinted clear. It just looked a really good horse. He's got so much going for him. Official ratings, he's £7, superior to Shishkin, who's one of the dangers here. And no, I think he wins. And as you say, even money, it's probably a fair price, really. So
I know some people think that Fast or Slow could reverse the form. I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, he did beat him at Punchestown
yeah,
last year, but I don't know. I struggle to see how he can possibly reverse it. And actually, I mean, I know he was second to Corrick Rambler in the Ultima last year over 3 mile one, but I'm just not sure he'll be as strong a stayer as Galopin Des Champs.
No, it's sometimes these things stick in your mind, and I know he carried a big weight in the Ultima last year, but has he improved that much since? Maybe he has. At Punchestown, maybe Galopin Des Champs had enough for the season. But I think the true reflection of his ability is last time out in Leopardstown when, and I think they'll finish in that order again. I think Galopin Des Champs will beat Fast or Slow. But no, it's definitely the favourite there for me. Shishkin's the enigma in the race, isn't he? I mean, people are starting calling him a bit ungenuine after the refusal to race, but I don't know. He probably would have won the King George, but for that unseat at 2 from home. And he did what was asked of him last time at Newbury, although he didn't totally impress me. He was sort of on and off the bridle a little bit during the race. And I don't know, maybe he's not the horse he once was, Shishkin, but it certainly adds some value to the race having him in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it certainly does. I think he might just be one of those types of horses who is never going to look totally impressive now, and he's maybe keeping a little bit back, but he will keep fighting because even at Kempton and the King George, I agree with you. I thought he was probably going to win the race, but Nico was having to sort of niggle at him to sort of keep him going. So I just wonder whether there's more. He's not showing his true ability because ultimately he should have been beating Hitman by more than 4 1/4 lengths at Newbury last time. But he's probably value for more than the winning margin on that occasion.
Yeah, he wouldn't be on my short list, Darran, to be honest. He is classy. I just think now at 10 years old, his better days are behind him. And he just does have those quirks. I mean, the day he refused, he had first time cheek pieces on. The fact that they wanted to, he has this flat spot in his races and he can be on and off the bridle. And he does stay on. So it's quite difficult to say he's ungenuine, but it's not the time. I'd rather have a horse that travels rather than one that's on and off the bridle. And maybe if you do fancy, maybe back him in running because he will have that flat spot where he comes off the bridle. So, but Brave Man's Game's sorry,
oh,
Dan.
sorry, yeah, Brave Man's Game. Yeah, we can talk about him. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's interesting because I think he's been given a very strange campaign, isn't he? Started off early in the Charlie Hall when he got beat there by Gentleman's Game when Cobden may not have been at his best, but then he backed it up 3 weeks later on Haydock soft ground and was out again in the King George. And he finished runner-up in all 3. But I just thought for a horse that was going to be campaigned towards a Gold Cup, that was 3 hard races and very soft ground. Well, it wasn't soft at Kempton, but 3 tough races. He's had a break since, so I think he can come and run a race. I wouldn't be shocked if he was in the frame. He's a very good jumper of a fence. I love a horse that can jump a fence well, and he's one that does. So he's had 80 days off, so he'll come there for a little bit fresh. But yeah, he would have an each way chance.
I was going to mention Lahom Presse for Phoenicia
Mm.
Williams, who obviously another leading contender for Britain.
Mm.
Was a winner at the Cheltenham Festival a couple of years ago when he won the Brown Advisory. Of course, he's had his injury issues since. He unseated in last year's in last season's King George, but that was his last one until he returned at Lingfield and he beat Protectorats in the Fleur de Lis chase. And then
Mm.
last time, probably just taking off his feet slightly in the Ascot chase last month, where even though a lot of the country was getting a lot of rain, somehow Ascot managed to miss it, and the ground wasn't anywhere near as testing as I think they were hoping for that race.
Yeah, he was easy to back that morning, and I think that was
Mm.
the reason why, because he's a horse that really does like the mud, and even the good to soft official going, I think it was faster than that according to time form. So it wasn't a shock he got beaten over that trip, 2 mile 5 by course specialist Pip Dory, and that would have been his Gold Cup. So he comes here with a chance. He's not really for me. I don't think he's good enough, to be honest. That's my opinion. I know he's won before at the meeting. And Venetia suddenly hit a bit of form over the last week as well, having gone through. She's very much what I would call a streaky trainer who has streaks of wins and then goes off the boil for a few more weeks.
Yeah.
But she's in a good vein of form at the moment. So, yeah, would have a chance, but wouldn't be one for me, Darren, to be honest.
And finally, we'll just mention the King George winner, of course,
Mm.
Hoyk for the Shark.
Yes.
Obviously, he's had a very varied career, been over to America, won there. He ran in France last year when finishing fourth at Auteuil in their big chase. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit of a surprise winner of the King George, but he stayed on very strongly that day. He fell in this race last year with a 40-1 chance. You think he's
Mm.
capable of going better this time around?
I think it's ground dependent with him, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean, it was soft ground last year when he fell. It was good ground in the King George. I think he's always looked a horse. If it came up good ground, there'd be worse big price runners than him, but ground dependent. It really is with
I think
him,
it's highly unlikely we're going to get good grounds. I mean, because I think he's going to go for the
Yeah.
Grand National, isn't he, after the Gold
Yes,
Cup?
he's got an entry there, isn't he? And why not for a horse that only cost 850 guineas? As a youngster,
Yeah,
amazing,
absolute bargain,
amazing
is it?
story. Yeah, as a
But
2 year old.
but basically, Galopin de Champs to win it for the second time.
It is. Yeah, I think we both agree on that, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. Many bookmakers are rolling out some fantastic free bets and promotions to get you in on the action at Cheltenham. If you're on the hunt for the best offers, we've got you covered. Just click on the free bets link in the description below where you can claim top free bet offers for the Cheltenham Festival. Well, we move on to the traditional first race on the final day of Cheltenham, which is the Triumph Hurdle for the juveniles. And I think you're pretty sweet on Sir Gino, given what you said about him when we've been talking about his form in other of the podcasts. And he's 4-6 at the time of recording with Bet365 for Nicky Henderson. And my God, was he impressive at Cheltenham in January.
Yeah, sometimes down you see a horse and he takes your breath away, and this horse is all about chasing. So he's a big horse. At Kempton, first time out, he clouted for he showed the hurdles no respect at all. But they've obviously done an awful lot of work on him because he was just sensational at Trials Day. He blew my mind that day, and I think there's a lot of short ones at the festival, and this would be the best for me. I think he's potentially a superstar, and he's going to be even better, when he gets to jump a fence. And if you fancy him for the Triumph, or then go and take a price for him to win the Arkle next year. I'm sure Nicky will be taking him over a fence next year because he's such a big horse. But the way he quick and clear after the last sprinted away from Burdock Road, who won't be running here. He's injured now, but I was highly impressed with that. I think he'll take a lot of beating.
I think we'll mention Constitution Hill here because you mentioned he's likely to go chaser. Of course, with Constitution Hill likely to go for next year's champion hurdle, that would also obviously play on the mind of what they do with Sir Gino, because I can't
Yeah.
imagine that Nicky's going to want to run both of them in the champion hurdle.
No, that's it. It's just the way he jumps a hurdle. He doesn't flick over them. He's got He's got a long action, just jumps and goes quite high, and perhaps not the best sort of advertisement of a hurdler, but he gets from A to B quickly, and he gets away from them quickly. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Constitution Hill staying hurdling, he could well be going down the Arkle route.
If you want to stay up to date with the latest goings on at Cheltenham, then you can find previews, tips, and betting trends across our social media channels. Make sure you follow our Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube accounts to stay up to date with all the festival action. Links are in the description. While we move on to the other novice hurdle on the card, well, that was a juvenile that we just spoke about, of course. But the novice hurdle, Albert Bartlett over 3 miles, which is always a real test of stamina, especially if the ground does come up pretty testing. Can often get a big price winner of this race as well. At the time of recording, it's 11-2 the field, with Reading Tommy Wrong currently the favourite for Willie Mullins in the Meniere colours. He's won his last 4 races. One of those was at Bannon Robe in a flat race, and then he won a couple of bumpers and has looked very good over hurdles so far, including winning the Grade 1 Lawlers of Naas in January.
Yeah, and that was over 2.5. So he's got to prove his stamina here, stepping up to 3 miles. He was a runner-up in an Irish point over 3 miles, but that doesn't always mean that the horse will stay. I think he probably will do, and he's got a few entries, but it seems to be this is the race he's going to. He's also in the Bear in Bingham's when he's a similar type of price. But if he turns up here, as you say, rightly say, Dan, he's 4 from 4, isn't he? 2 bumpers, 2 novice hurdles. He'd have to go close, as Willie Mullins is, main representative. But he does have others here, doesn't he? Mullins, obviously, surprise, surprise. You've got Dancing City. That horse, again, is stepping up in trip. So until they've actually done, actually have gone at 3 miles, we don't know whether they will truly stay. But he's a horse that's stepping up from 2 miles, 6.5, having won the Grade 1 Nathaniel Lacey and Partners Solicitors Novice Hurdle at Leopardstown.
I think it's probably one of the reasons why we often get big price winners, I should say, because very often these horses haven't been over 3 miles in the past. So you are sort of taking a little bit of a guess whether they're going to win. And even these multiple winners being winning over shorter, it's like, well, are they going to stay? And very often they get caught out by their heel, and it's something that's relatively unconsidered that can go and win. Is there anything at a massive price you like here, or you're looking at slightly shorter?
Well, not massive price, but I think the Nicky Henderson run has got to be at players. Neither the Donnelly's horse Shannar Bob. For the main reason, we know he stays. He's already a course winner here over 3 miles when he won the Grade 2 Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle. Not this race, obviously, but would use as a stepping stone. I thought he was quite impressive that day with Nico de Bonville riding. He's been off since. Might not have been the strongest renewal, but you did have Kerry Hill back there in 4th that's come out since and won the River Don at Doncaster. So, there's some substance to the race. Will only be his 3rd ever run under rules, although he did win a maiden point-to-point as well in Ireland. But he's all about stamina. And I think he might be the forgotten horse in the race, to be honest, with all the talk about the Irish horses. And, no, I'm quite sweet on him. I think he'll run well each way around sort of a double-figure price. And the good thing about him as well, he's just got the one entry at Cheltenham. So there's no will he run here, will he run there. This is his race.
For those of you that are new to betting on Cheltenham, we've got something special for you. We've put together a complete How to Bet on Cheltenham guide that's packed with tips, tricks, and strategies to help you navigate the festival betting scene. Plus, we've taken the time to review and rank the top Cheltenham Festival bookies, making it easier for you to choose where to place your bets. You'll find all these resources linked in the description below, so be sure to check them out. We're now going to move on to the Hunter's Chase, and we're going to roll reverse here, Steve, so I'll let you take over.
Well, you're the expert, Darren, so I know you're massive on these. So, yeah, last year's winner, Premier Magic, Bradley Gibbs, obviously a potent trainer and rider, isn't he? Would he have a chance here? Would he be on your shortlist?
I certainly think you've got to give him consideration. He ran in the race a couple of years ago and he seemed to hate it, which is one of the reasons why I was put off to put him up last year. Even though it was a big price, I did think he had the ability to go close in a race like this. But I thought, given with Cheltenham Festival form usually pays credence, I just thought, well, he hated Cheltenham the previous year. But they rode him on the inside a couple of years ago, and that's why they hated it. So they thought, well, we'll change tactics. We'll ride him on the outside, and he seemed obviously he absolutely loved it last season. And then he went on to win at the Cheltenham 100 Chase night when beating Rebel Dawn Rising. Bizarrely, Racing Post ratings rate that higher than the win at the festival, but I'm surprised by that. Rebel Dawn Rising isn't really a stayer. It wasn't much of a race beyond that. And I'd certainly rate the festival win as higher than that. Now, this season, he's running 2 points so far at Sheriff Hutton and Brocklesby. He's not beaten a great deal. I mean, he was 1-10 last time. He beat a horse called Tory Graph at the time before that. And the third has been stuffed in a maiden hunter chase at Leicester since. So there's no substance to that form. All it tells us is that he's fit, healthy. He's got 4 legs. Bradley's obviously saying that is in as good form as he was last year. He's a good trainer. I just don't know. I don't know if he still has the same ability because those 2 wins don't really tell us a great deal.
Sure.
However, if he does still have that ability, then he's obviously going to have a very good chance. And he may be part of my betting strategy come the day because, you could argue that he's slightly overpriced currently.
Okay. And the front 2 in the market obviously are both Irish trained, and they raced against each other, didn't they, in a hunter chase on Boxing Day? It's on the line and Fern's Lock. There was only half a length between them that day. Do you have preference for one or the other?
I think the form's going to be withheld there. I'm very keen on It's on the Line. If you've been reading my blog that I've had on the Punters Lounge forum, where I do my road to the Cheltenham Festival Hunter Chase, because it's not called the Fox Hunters anymore. So it's a bit clunky. You'd have seen my thoughts and opinions as we've gone on through the months and weeks. And I'm a big fan of Fern's Lock. He really impressed me last season on the whole. I know he got beat at Fairy House, but he looked a top class horse. They missed Cheltenham last year because they thought it would be a year too soon. And also David Christie had Vorselay, who was a warm favourite for this race anyway. But I just don't think he's going to stay. He got outstayed by It's on the Line at Darran Royal. And he's got another 2 furlongs to go. The ground is likely to be on the softer side. I've had a look at the forecast. It looks like there's some rain in the forecast. Maybe not a great deal, but we know the water table is going to be high. The softer the ground, the worse his chance is surely going to be. He's a very free-going sort. He's not overly keen, but I think he just does a little bit too much for himself. But that's because he's got class. He's a very good jumper. He's got entry written all over him. 2 miles 5 ran the Grand National fences. I think he's going to be absolutely ideal at the Grand National meeting in the Fox Hunters there. And I thought it was very interesting. When he won at Thurles last time, he beat Romeo Magico, who's a stablemate of It's on the Line, and he looked very good. Ruby Walsh was on Racing TV, and he said, I would go to Aintree with him. David Christie has basically come out and also said, he looks more of an Aintree horse, but we may as well give Cheltenham a go. I think because I've heard that the owner has backed him for this race, a few months ago, and I think that's why they're going. That's not to say he won't win. He has definitely got the ability to win this. I think he's probably the best horse in the race. I just don't think he will stay. If he does happen to stay, he probably will win, and I've done my money. But I'm a huge fan of It's on the Line. He finished second in this race last year, but staying on, absolutely flying up the hill behind Premier Magic. He then went to the Aintree Fox Hunters where he fell, but he went to the Punchestown Festival. He beat Vorselay by a length there. He looked pretty decent. He's 3 from 3 so far this season. You probably remember the race at Naas last time where Billaway suddenly came from the clouds. Yeah, I backed him that day. I thought, at least I've won. And then Billaway came and I thought, oh, God, I've done my money. Billaway traded very, very short in running, not surprisingly. Now, people might think he had a hard race there. I don't think he had that hard race. He was keeping something back for himself. The fact he picked up again when Billaway came to him just suggested to me, he's got more in the tank. They're going to put the cheap pieces back on, which he hasn't worn at all so far this season. I think that's crucial. Derek O'Connor's obviously going to take the ride. We know he's good. The ground's going to be on the softer side. That's going to be absolutely ideal. He's a horse that is stamina through and through. Now, he was given an entry in the Grand National, which he can't run in because he's running Hunter Chases. He does look like he could be a Grand National type, and it wouldn't surprise me if that becomes his target next season. Obviously, we know Emmett has won the Grand National before. I think he's an out and out stayer, and this race tends to be a real stamina test. And I think
And
he
he's
should
only
be
a
clear
7-year-old,
favourite.
isn't he, Darran, as well? He's
Yeah.
only a 7-year-old.
The
So,
slight negative is you want to be 10 or 11 to win this race in recent
yeah,
years.
sure.
But
Yes.
I think he's the type of horse who he's had plenty of running. He's experienced, and we know he stays well. I think possibly the younger horses are struggling now because we don't know whether they do stay. On the fringe, had a few chances at this before he ended up winning when he got a bit older. That could be the case with Fernzock if they do stay hunter chasing
Yeah.
with him. Who's to say that he doesn't become a stronger stayer later on?
Because
But I
he's
think
only
it's
7
on.
as well, isn't he?
He's only 7 as well, yeah. But I think
Yeah.
at this time, it's on the line is the stronger stayer.
Okay.
Just before we move on, I'll mention a couple
Yeah.
of bigger prices. The Cine Nomine is the big talking horse for in the point-to-point sphere over here. I've always been a bit queried about her. She jumped terribly in the intermediate final on Cheltenham Hunter Chase Night a couple of years ago, and she was beaten at Cheltenham Hunter Chase Night last year in the mares race by Miss Seagreen, who's also entered in this race, and I don't give her any chance. But apart from that, her form under rules is pretty good. Although you can pick holes on it, which is why I've always been a bit negative about her. But I think ultimately, I think I have to sort of believe that she is actually pretty talented. She beat Benny's King last time by 15 lengths. Benny's King came out and absolutely bolted up at Leicester last week. And although Benny's King isn't the strongest stayer in the world, I think it's still a top effort. She actually cruised through the race. Her jumping is really good now. The slight doubt, obviously, is the Cheltenham form, but I think she's probably better than that. And I think it was a bit of a funny race at Cheltenham last year. The softer the ground, the better for her. I think she needs it on the softer side. If it did happen to come up good to soft, it would limit her chances. But softer ground, the better. And the other one I'm going to give a quick mention to is time leader for Hannah Roach. Now, Joe O'Shea used to train this horse. He's still heavily involved in the yard, even though Hannah's name is on the license. Possibly he's more of an entry horse. He was 5th in the entry Fox Hunters last year, but he did stay at Cartmel, even though it's not as strong a race as this. He did stay this sort of trip at Cartmel last year. He was a good winner at Hereford last time. He's got a lot of ability, and it wouldn't surprise me if he ran a decent race as well. He probably doesn't want if it got heavy. I wouldn't fancy him because I don't think he wants testing ground. But if it was, soft, good to soft, I think that would be ideal. But for me, the most likely winner and the one I'm most confident on is it's on the line.
That'll do for me as well, then.
Right now, do you fancy yourself as a horse racing betting expert? If so, the Punters Lounge form is a free Cheltenham tipster competition running over the course of the festival. There will be exciting prizes up for grabs and the chance to test your expertise against fellow punters. Just head on over to the Punters Lounge Racing Forum, sign up and get involved. You can find the link in the description. Right, we've got 2 massively competitive handicaps and the Mayor's Chase to look forward to. Let's go to the first handicap of the day, the Canty Hurdle, which used to end the festival, but they obviously moved it. No, it didn't used to end the festival. It used to be the Grand Annual, didn't it? But it used to be the last race on one of the days anyway. But it's moved to race 2 on day 4. And this is going to be really wide open, isn't it, Steve? Currently,
Yes,
the market leader is Iberico Lord for Nicky Henderson.
Yeah,
That's won the
the
Betfair
horse
Hurdle
went.
last time.
It did, didn't it? A Newbury, and it did it quite cosily that day. It's gone up £9 for that, so it's not as if he's coming here thrown in, but he can be a player. He's a horse I've always liked, and I know the guys down at Seven Barrows like as well, owned by JP McManus. He has a few in this race, so I'd like to mention King of Kingsfield because this horse of Gordon Elliott's gets in off a 140, and if you look at his last third, which was in the Grade 1 at Leopardstown in February, he was third to Ballyburn and Slade Steel, beaten 14 lengths, obviously. But if them two have got some fancy entries earlier in the meeting, if they were to come out and boost that form, that could be the one they go for here. Although the horse that I like is a horse that was actually 4th in that race. It wasn't far behind King of Kingsfield, 3 lengths behind, and that's the Willie Mullins trained Absurd. Now we'll know this horse. You'll know this horse, Darran, because he was 7th in the Melbourne Cup last year. Yes. He's rated 110 on the flat, and he's been given a flat mark, very comparable with that of a 140. So I normally put 40. Well, he's won 380 is in this race. I normally put on £40 onto a flat horse to get its equivalent national hunt mark. So offer 138, £28 higher than his flat mark. He could be well treated here in his first handicap. You know, he's a decent animal because you remember he won the Ebor off of 104. So I think at the time, if you said, okay, you've won the Ebor 104, do you fancy your chances in the county hurdle off of 138? I think a lot of people would say yes. So
and he ran very well at Flemington as well in the Melbourne Cup. That wasn't beaten far by Without a Flight, who's a top class animal on the flat in Australia. So yeah, that was a really decent effort. Yeah, very interesting runner in this.
The only other entry he's got is the Supreme Novice Hurdle. No, that would be my pick. There would be Absurd.
Well, move on to the Mares' Chase. It's another Willie Mullins at the moment. Odds on favourite 10 to 11, just odds on Dino Blue, who was second behind Al Fabiolo last time. Obviously, that's a strong piece of form.
Yeah, I don't think there's much you can say about this race, Darren. I think he wins, or she wins. Sorry, Dino Blue. She's classy. That El Fabiolo run just says it all, really. It just backs up what she'd done before. She does have a £5 penalty to carry here, but I think her previous Group 1 win at Leopardstown over Christmas in the Paddy's Reward Club Chase proves that she's very good. I mean, she was second last year in the Grand Annual. She's improved since then. She was rated 140 then. She's rated 159 now. So I think she wins there.
Well, move on to the final race of the whole meeting. If you've not found a winner yet, this is going to be very tough to find the winner of the final race. The Martin Pipe traditional jockeys. I mean, at the moment, Willie Mullins has got the joint favourites, Sam Magiste and Croix de Bourbon. They're both 7-2. Is Sam Magiste going elsewhere, possibly?
Yes, I think that's in the Coral Cup, isn't it? It's favourite for the Coral Cup at the moment, but who knows what Willie's up to. But yeah, the horse I think will run well here, Darren, is No Ordinary Joe. It looks like it's been mapped out. It's another one of these JP McManus horses. The horse ran really well in this race last year. It got run out of it on the run-in by Irocco, who we talked about earlier, as a chaser this year. That was off a 139. It was an eye-catching third at Kempton last time. Gets back in here off a 140, £1 higher. Looks like it's been mapped out for it, really. So I think in a wide open race, that would be a very interesting one of that one. No Ordinary Joe each way.
Right, so this is the only race I've had a bet in so far is obviously going to be It's on the Line in the Hunter's Chase. But what about your Napa next best on day 4?
Well, my nap is Sir Gino, and I'm a bit biased like you. I have backed the horse, and that was at 12-1. So there we go. I put my hands up before I admit to that.
Yeah, I've only got 4 to 1 about It's on the Line. I don't think he's ever been as big as 12-1 for the race, unfortunately.
No, sure. And my second best, probably Absurd each way in the county hurdle.
Yeah, that does look a very interesting runner. Okay, so that's just about all we have time for on this episode. And of course, it's the final day as well. Don't forget to like and share this episode, subscribe to the Punters Lounge YouTube channel, and click on the bell to receive notifications of new videos. Remember, if you want to stay up to date during the festival with in-depth race cards, expert tips, and the latest odds and results, then head on over to punterslounge.com. And also, don't forget the Punters Lounge forum as well, where you can give us feedback on the podcast. You could obviously put your own tips and also enter that tipster competition. Also, Punters Lounge supports responsible gambling. This podcast is intended for those who are 18 years or over of age, and we strongly recommend that you only bet what you can comfortably afford to lose. Remember, gambling should be fun, not a method for financial gain. If you're concerned about your gambling, please visit GamCare, Gamble Aware, or Gamblers Anonymous for more information. All links are provided in the description below. Thanks for listening. Enjoy your Cheltenham Festival. Hopefully you find plenty of winners, and we'll see you next time.